Hey guys, I'm Jeremy. There's a big chance you're watching this video on a smartphone. And it's quite possible that you spent half your day scrolling through memes, watching videos, texting, and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not judging. I just know the way it works. Usually, you don't realize it's an addiction until something horrible happens. That was my case exactly. Scrolling was the first thing I would do when I woke up in the morning, right after my eyes opened, and the last thing I would do before falling asleep. At school, I was not paying any attention, of course, since I was neither looking or listening. And even when I was hanging out with my friends, all of us would spend most of our time on our phones, even when we were physically in the same room. Of course, my parents were not happy about this at all. There were plenty of times when they got mad when I would be reluctant to talk to them at dinner while I was texting, for example. Now, I see that I was wrong, but I can't say that they were 100% right either. Most of the time, they were super negative and even aggressive, saying that smartphones are like totally useless and harmful, and back in their day, and on and on and on. I mean, it didn't really make sense. I did spend way too much time texting, but that let me keep in touch with my cousins, for example, or with my best friend Eric, whose family moved to New York 6 months ago. And this supported me and helped me a lot every day. And then this happened. Technically, a smartphone had nothing to do with it, and at the same time, it did. I was walking to my friend's house, texting my cousin. I wasn't paying enough attention while I was crossing the road, and I got hit by a car. I opened my eyes in the hospital. I was very lucky not to have anything broken, but the bruises over my left arm and left leg were huge. My parents were there. My mum was crying. They knew in detail how the accident happened, and it seemed they were more angry than relieved. So as soon as I reached for my phone to check the notifications I had missed, I learned that the moment I got out of hospital, I was going to a smartphone rehab. I had never heard anything like that in my life. And of course, I didn't want to go. And here's the important thing. My parents are pretty strict, but they would never ever send me somewhere against my will. So they offered me a deal. If I went through the rehab and came back still sure that there was nothing wrong, they would never say another word about me being on my phone. And that sounded fair. So in late May, I got out of hospital, and on the first day of summer break, I went to the rehab center. It turned out to be a pretty comfortable resort, but of course, from the very beginning, I hated it. Right after my arrival, they took my phone, and I would only get it back once the program ended. And there were no digital devices there, not even a single TV. When I woke up on my first morning, I felt miserable. Some of you are probably thinking that I'm being whiny, but okay, just imagine for a second, you cannot text anyone. You have no idea what's going on with your friends, and the FOMO is just killing you. You don't even know what's going on in the world, since the only news sources are newspapers delivered daily by the mailman. A couple of days passed, and I still hated the rehab. But I got to know some of the guys there, so everyone was around 13 to 18, and each had their own story. For example, Greg, who was the first guy I got to know. He was sent there when his parents saw that he was so distracted every day that he couldn't even study anymore. He arrived one day before me, and he was also not happy about it. In fact, we felt so bad, we thought of a plan. At night, 2 adults were at the center with us, our supervisor and the security guard. The lockers with our phones were right next to the guard, who would fall asleep almost every night. The supervisor was a very disciplined woman who didn't seem to get sleepy ever. So the plan was, ask one of the guys to distract her while Greg and I would get the locker keys and get our phones out as fast as we could. We didn't even need to get them back there, because as long as the lockers would be closed, no one would guess that they were empty. So we decided to take action the same night. Greg's friend Mike told the supervisor he wasn't feeling well, so she left her room to check what was wrong with him. While she was away, we grabbed the keys, snuck past the guard quietly so we didn't wake him up, and there they were, the lockers with our belongings. It was so easy I could not believe it. We opened the lockers, grabbed our phones, closed them back, and we were ready to leave. And that was where I made a huge mistake. I was so eager to get back online, I turned my phone on immediately, and it made a loud sound that woke up the guard. We were instantly busted. As for the consequences, I thought they'd be much worse, to be honest. The supervisor turned out to be very kind and understanding. The worst part was, in fact, dealing with myself, because that was the point I realized that my addiction was real. I mean, to come up with a plan like this to spend a few hours online. As time went by, I even started to enjoy the whole thing. There was so much to do. We could play outside any sport that existed, except for the ones with horses, I guess. We could read a lot, play board games, and of course we had group sessions. We were even meditating twice a day. Some of the habits will probably stay with me forever. So when it's all finished, I was still happy to get home and get all my devices back. I can't say that I don't need a smartphone anymore, but I at least learned how to control myself. I'm not one to lecture, but it turned out that compulsive smartphone use is connected to our brain chemistry and a substance called dopamine. I recommend that you look up how this works, as it really helped me to understand myself better. So this is my story of curing an addiction at the age of 16. Is your smartphone a problem in your life? Share your stories in the comments. And maybe put that thing away for a while.